Good morning and welcome to Making Shapes. This, of course, is a series on Samkhya Karika. This is a age-old philosophy developed by the sage Kapila somewhere between 3,500 years ago. I find it a fascinating school of philosophy, that's for sure. Samkhya can sometimes translate as to enumerate, meaning that it's broken down into specific parts that help guide us through the system. Now, last week I started down the road of verse 3, and I decided to break up verse 3 into a few parts. I'm going to see what I get through today in the next few minutes. Verse 3 kind of encapsulates some of the kind of primary principles of the philosophical system. So last week I spent a lot of time on looking at the two main parts. It's not necessarily, it's not like a dualistic system, of course, but it is broken up into these two main parts: the Purusha, the spirit, and Prakriti, material nature, right? And Purusha and Prakriti, Purusha is the spirit, and it is the place where we are evolving to, or attempting to transcend towards, right? We can use that term quite liberally throughout these talks. And then Prakriti is broken down into 25 evolutes, right? Essentially these steps that we take to lift ourselves up, right, to the Purusha, right, to transcend towards the Purusha. So in this philosophical school, it's really essential that we understand all these parts, these evolutes or evolvents, right, something I talked about quite a bit last week. Now, so, certain parts of the system involve something that is going to be, it's going to cause another thing to happen. And at the same time, other parts are going to be the result of another thing, right? So last week I was attempting to describe this, and let me first review verse 3. Primal nature is not an evolute. The group of 7, Mahats and the rest, are evolutes and evolvents. The group of 16 is evolute. Spirit is neither an evolute nor an evolvent. Okay, so thankfully within the book, something I should have shown last week. So as you can see there, I'm not sure how it's reflecting here, but here you have the Nya, which we'll get into, or the Purusha. Right? This is the place in which we're attempting to transcend. It's neither an evolvent or an evolute. In last week, I'd said that it's an evolvent in that it it could be seen as something like Brahman in Vedanta. All right, so it could be the source of a thing, but in Samkhya philosophy, it is neither. Where in here we have Prakriti, material nature, right? It is the cause of like these other things. Okay, so we have material nature as like a primary evolute, right? The primary evolute, yeah. Okay, so that's going to be the cause of other things. In this case, we have Mahat and the rest, right? That's the intellect and the ego. These are like the organs of cognition, right? And then you'll see, and again, I'm not exactly sure where, I can't really see, but you have things like I believe this over here, the gross elements and the subtle elements. And then we have the karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas. I don't know which one is which, again, because I can't quite read it. So let's dig into those karmendriyas and jnanendriyas, right? So that is kind of critical part of this system. Right, the Karmendrias are the organs of action. They include things like grasping and motion, things like that, and the Nindriyas. Right, these are the organs of perception. Right, the ability to hear, our ability to hear and see and smell and so forth. Right, they have a really big impact on how we behave in the world. I think that is probably going to be the primary takeaways here. If we look at it in terms of Samkhya and our ability, then we're kind of stuck in the realm of the senses. Right? That is usually a really good sign that we're not making progress within this tradition. Right? Is that the realm of the senses causes us to remain fixed in material nature. And we look to the Upanishads, we look to the Vedanta system, a little bit of guidance here. The word Maya comes up over and over again. Right? Maya, this, of course, would be the illusion, right, that is cast, or the veil that is cast over our eyes, the illusion that is presented before us. And we're supposed to just kind of like take it, like whole cloth, that we are, we're being fooled, right? If you're not familiar with these systems, then we really don't understand like what we're being fooled into. Now we know that like the transcendent state it's a calm and peaceful state. It's a place where, well, we of course reap the benefits of meditation, the meditative state, by becoming more patient, lowering things like blood pressure, kind of managing stress, a lot easier. But that's in terms of this kind of like lower state. The more elevated part of ourselves would achieve a state of divinity, if you will, right? Depending on how you practice, right? How you practice, these various methods. So when we reach that state, or rather the ability to be in that state, is completely dependent on our ability to understand first how these indriyas fool us into believing that this lower reality, right, that of prakriti, material nature, is the only reality. Now, I'm not saying we're stuck in any type of matrix or anything like that. I'm not saying that we are in like, some kind of game some other being is playing. That is not it at all. I'm saying that consciousness can be elevated to the point beyond this realm, this lower reality, right? And if you meditate, right, if you practice, heck, you don't even have to engage with meditation necessarily to achieve that state. It happens spontaneously on occasion. If you are a surfer, or if you like snowboarding, or if you like mountain climbing, if you do some type of activity that requires really intense focus, the mind, and it's usually in a place where your focus has to be so deep on a thing that no other distractions can come about. We oftentimes achieve something that is very close to, not necessarily, but very close to that deep meditative state. So sometimes it happens spontaneously. It can happen like in church, right, as well, synagogue or the mosque as well, right? You're so just like kind of drawn into the moment. Same. So we achieve that transcendent state in various ways, for sure. In Samkhya tradition, though, it's really important for us to, again, realize these indriyas, the karmendriyas, non-indriyas, that is the organs of action, the organs of cognition. And if we understand them, then we can also understand how they might keep us bound to prakriti. All right, so those karmendriyas and jnana-indriyas, we know the jnana-indriyas, right? We know, hearing and taste and feel and sight and smell, right? So we know those really well. And they are essential to the way in which we navigate our life. Beyond prakriti, of course, is purusha, is the spirit, is the transcendent state. In that transcendent state, all of these things fall away, right? The organs of perception fall away. They're no longer required in that state. So, with those indriyas, right, we have a tool that is absolutely required for us to navigate this lower reality. We talk with friends, we do our work in our household, and we go out and do our work as well. They're required. We have to. Right? So it's kind of a beautiful thing, right? In Samkhya and a lot of these schools of philosophical thought based around yoga involves this, very this recognition that this reality that we're living in is important, basically equally as important as the state that we're attempting to achieve, that higher transcendent state. Why? Because we need these pieces, right? We need all these parts to achieve that state. If even biologically, we need these things to function throughout our lives. Okay? So the first step is understanding that we do need them. The second step is understanding that they are not required to achieve the transcendent state, and realizing that they could potentially keep us trapped in that loop that keeps us fixed in prakriti, material nature, preventing us from achieving the transcendent state of purusha. All right, so I'd better leave it at that, right? Clearly there's going to be a part 3. We do have to dig into the ego next week. I'll probably leave it at that next week. So I do hope you enjoyed this talk. Hopefully it was helpful. Subscribe, like, please. I would, love to hear some feedback as well. Everybody have a wonderful day today. Please take care of yourself and others. Peace.